Growing up, Batman has always been one of my favorite superheroes as a kid. Some of my favorite series to watch was Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond. But one of the more interesting things about Batman was his villains. His villains, yeah, they were criminals, but they were all psych cases. They didn't go to jail, they went to Arkham Asylum. I always found that very interesting and, something you don't pay attention to as a kid. But you start to realize as you get older, Batman, in a sense, is not only fighting against crime, but psychological warfare. Not only that, Batman himself is a psych case. And every day, he's not only fighting the villains, but himself. And you generally think it's cool as a kid that he's rich, he can beat up the bad guys, he gets all the girls. He's not just Batman, he's Bruce Wayne. But today, we're not here to talk about Bruce Wayne, or even Batman, as a matter of fact. We're here to talk about one of his most iconic villains, Two-Face. Most of us from my generation know Two-Face pretty well from The Dark Knight, but I'm actually here to talk about the Two-Face from the Batman, the animated series. One interesting thing about this cartoon, although it was meant for kids, it told a lot of very dark and serious storylines that I'd like to focus on throughout this video. As with any other villain, the story of Two-Face doesn't start with Two-Face. It starts with a guy named Harvey Dent. And this specific episode of Batman the Animated Series starts off with Harvey running from somebody in his dream. Who is Harvey running from? He's running from himself. What appears to be a more aggressive version of himself. And somebody wakes him up. They're like, "Yo, Mr. Dent, we got something to attend to." And they end up going to a raid against Rupert Thorne. And in there, Batman does his due diligence. The end result is Rupert Thorne's men end up getting captured, and everything is pretty much going smooth so far. Harvey, being the district attorney, speaks to the media and lets them know that he's the one who actually planned out this raid with the Gotham Police Department. After he speaks to the media, you end up seeing one of Rupert Thorne's men talking trash, and after all that, he kicks mud on Harvey's suit. And this is where Harvey loses it. He goes ballistic, he's wilding, he's beating the guy up, he's threatening him to the point where Jim Gordon is like, "Yo, chill out, like, what are you doing?" Later on, you also find out that Harvey is rerunning for district attorney. Everybody supported him, the Gotham Police Department, the public, Bruce Wayne. He's pretty much on everybody's side and he's destined to win the race. You also find out that he sees a therapist. As a matter of fact, that angry version of Harvey we saw earlier in the episode was his other personality, Big Harvey, which was caused by an incident during his childhood where he fought back against the bully and the bully ended up injured. Not because of Harvey, it was a separate injury, but Harvey felt bad enough that he suppressed his rage and his rage became an entirely different personality. And you know who's also in on this secret? Rupert Thorne. As soon as he saw on the news what had happened, he started plotting to find a way to expose Dent. And Rupert Thorne says one of the most important things in this two-part episode. The brighter the picture, the darker the negative. Afterwards, and they gather all the evidence against Dent. Once Dent wins, they call him up to essentially, quote-unquote, strike a deal. And mind you, Harvey is very insecure about his issues. So rather than just letting it out to the public that he has his issues and that he's working on it, he decides to deal with Rupert Thorne and try to see if there's a way that he can get out of this mess. And boy, did he make things worse for himself. Goes to Rupert Thorne. They're discussing everything. They're basically mocking him. And Big Harvey comes out, starts roughing up Rupert Thorne. Bruce Wayne, he already saw something looked a little off with Harvey, so he decided to track him as Batman. So you already know Batman's in there. Harvey ends up taking the evidence and running with it, and he's also chasing after Thorne. One thing leads to another. A guy's about to shoot Harvey. Batman stops the guy from shooting the gun at Harvey, but it ends up shooting something else. And boom, a bunch of acid on Harvey. Goes to the hospital. They unwrap the bandages. His face is all messed up. Two-Face is born. And when he walks outside and his fiancée sees him, she faints. Harvey, feeling rejected and disgusted by what's become of him, decides to turn a new leaf, becoming Two-Face, taking up a coin and scarring it on one side to reflect half of his face that had been scarred due to the accident. And in the following episode, the part 2, you see his escapades during his time as Two-Face. In part 2, you see that his whole thing is that he wants revenge against Rupert Thorne. He doesn't want this guy thinking he got away with murder. And he hasn't reached the point where he's targeted Thorne as yet. Right now, he's just taking down his businesses. All the while, he's looking back at his past life, wishing things went right, specifically missing his fiancée. As we see in the episode, his fiancée is missing him as well. Rupert Thorne uses this to essentially trap Two-Face by using his fiancée, knowing that Two-Face is going to reach out to her. And when they do, and when they speak, and he reintroduces himself, his fiancée Grace is pretty shocked. And Two-Face tries to explain to her that this is his life now, this life of crime where everything is decided by fate. And she asks him, well, what about taking control of your own life? Not too long after, Rupert Thorne and his gang bust in. A fight ensues. Once again, Batman is there to save the day. And Harvey looks to do the unthinkable. But the whole gag with Two-Face is, even though Harvey's about to do the unthinkable, Two-Face demands that he flips a coin. Batman strategically realizes this and takes a bunch of coins and throws it at Harvey, causing him to go into a disarray. He can't make a decision because he can't find the coin. And the episode ends with him being sent to Arkham Asylum with his fiancée Grace walking with him, telling him that everything's gonna be alright. So what makes this episode, well, specifically these 2 episodes, special? One, it revolves around the concept of one bad day. Anybody who's watched Batman the Killing Joke or read the comics know that this is a concept that the Joker holds very dear to his heart. His whole thing is that one bad day can take the greatest man to the worst one.
I've demonstrated there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day.
And this is essentially what happens to Harvey. He literally starts the episode as the district attorney. In the middle of the episode, what is he? Once again, district attorney, because he ran and won the race. How does the episode end? The episode ends with him becoming Two-Face. And a lot of this, in his one bad day, a lot of it doesn't just stem from Rupert Thorne and his antics. It also stems from Harvey's lack of self-acceptance. There was a line from Bruce when Harvey had, well, not Harvey, but Grace mentioned that he was going to therapy to Bruce. And Bruce told Harvey that's a respectable thing. You have your issues and you're dealing with it. And Harvey doesn't want to be seen as a lunatic. He doesn't want to be seen like the guys in Arkham. But in the same breath, if he were to just let everything come out, own it, and accept it, he already got the position. They're not going to remove it from him. But also, just like Bruce, I think the vast majority of the public, seeing the good that he's done for Gotham, can respect that the man has his own demons and is in an active attempt to conquer them. But Harvey doesn't see it this way, goes to Rupert Thorne, and we all know what happens next. So a lack of self-acceptance and also fear of judgment by others also plays into what becomes Two-Face eventually in Batman the Animated Series. The other thing that I found pretty interesting within the episode was unconditional love. Not just from Grace's fiance, who still loved him even after he messes his face up, even after he starts committing the crimes, but also Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne was pretty much his friend to the very end. Even when going against Harvey, you still see that not Batman, but Bruce Wayne is in pain seeing his friend become the way he is. Not only that, there is also a large part of regret because Batman, he's supposed to save people to prevent these kinds of things from happening, and he wasn't able to do that with Harvey. Everybody that was close to Harvey Dent wanted to help him, mainly Grace and Bruce Wayne, but they all wanted to help him, regardless of what he looked like or who he had become. But it becomes pretty evident towards the end of the episode, and not only that, in future episodes featuring Two-Face, that he doesn't want the help. He's become so mentally distraught that he believes that his shadow, the creature that he saw waiting for him in the abyss, is him now. And everything he does must now be decided by a flip of a coin. And for all these reasons, this is why I believe that Two-Face is a very relatable character. Not only did we see a great man fall in an obviously exaggerated way because it's a cartoon, but in a very relatable way. He has a darker side to him. He has a fear of rejection that he won't be accepted, even though it's been shown by the people who love him and potentially by the greater masses that he could have been accepted. But his fear of rejection leads him to go down a riskier path, and the end result of that is essentially him making things worse for himself. We all have things we're self-conscious about. It's just a matter of if we accept it or not. Two-Face represents the complexities and the duality of human nature. We all have our second face, whether we show it or don't show it. And it's safe to say, whether you actually do have a mental condition or not, our bad sides, the darker sides of ourselves, our shadows, are something that we try to hide. We always try to hide. We don't want anybody seeing our bad side. Because you know what? Chances are, deep down inside, a lot of us feel as though if we were at our worst, a lot of people wouldn't stick around. And that's honestly what Harvey thought. That's the reason why he runs away from Grace when she faints. It's not like she fainted because he's some monster now. It's just she wasn't expecting to see that. She wasn't expecting to see it. But he believes that there's nothing left for him, and the only thing he could do is go towards a life of crime. Within all of this, I feel the call to action here in this specific video. Love yourself. Accept yourself. Don't be afraid what others think. Don't fear rejection to the point where you might mess up a great opportunity you have storing for you or what you already have with you. And don't forget the people that are willing to put up with your madness, your bad days, your good days. Those people are very important. You know, we all have two faces, but with those two faces, in a way, come two different fates. It's just up to you to choose the one that fuels your greatest growth. Starve the ego, feed the soul. If you want more of these videos, like and subscribe. Comment any other cartoons, animes, movies, or TV shows that you'd like to see me review in the future and talk about specific themes. And enjoy your day.